everyone, this is Lily, and in this video interview, which is called Walking the System, we're going to have a look at how to assist and support self in walking one's process within the context of what it in fact means to first be equal to and one with self, and to, from within that equality and oneness, be able to change self, where the substance of that and starting point as that equality and oneness change from the system to and as equality and oneness that incorporate or include all as one as equal. And this works in the following way. Now, as everyone has noticed within the world as a whole, in terms of how the world system is currently operating and functioning, is that everything is becoming more closed, more centralized, more specific, more precise with regards to procedures, regulations, paper trails, contracts, agreements, and things like that. And within that, the entire and total step-by-step process that you have to walk in asserting or solidifying a particular position for yourself in the world system as a whole. So it's like every detail of your participation in the system, where you're at, what you're doing, how you're doing, is being logged, stored, computerized, as everything of self is literally being encoded into the world system as a whole. So within process, especially now with where we're at within the existential process as a whole, it's to take into consideration the practical point of ensuring that self walk the system, and not accept and allow self to try and attempt to look for shortcuts in trying to manipulate or short circuit or change the system. When one have a look at how the world system as a whole is functioning and operating at the moment, it's functioning and operating in a principle of oneness. And if you're coming from one minute point or part within that system, and you're trying to change or short circuit or shortcut that one small minute point, the whole system is going to push you out, because you're not taking into consideration that that small one part minute point is actually interrelated into a total global system. And maybe in the past it was possible to find shortcuts, short-circuiting the system, but at the moment they have bottlenecked everything to such an extent that the manifested consequences you'll face by trying to look for shorter ways, shortcuts, short-circuiting, is becoming more and more extensive. So when you're walking the system, meaning when you're doing agreements, contracts, paperwork, participation in, for example, money, homes, long-term investments, things like that, make sure that you've got all your details, make sure that you've got all your information, make sure that you do all the proper investigations, that you get to know yourself as the system. So whatever you do, get to know what you're doing, equal to and one with how it is existing. Walk it practically, step by step by step. In that way, whatever part you're participating in within the world system, you'll walk as yourself. And at the same time, eventually when we get to the point of the equal money system implementation, we can have a look at how to practically change whatever points or parts of the world system as a whole requires changing, that can benefit all as one as equal. I mean, already there are parts within the world system's functioning and operation that's quite cool in how it's been set up, and other parts not so cool. So rather than accepting and allowing self to go into the mind where we tend to want to rush through something and have something immediately right now, take a breath and walk the system step by step, space-time. And you'll notice an interesting thing is that how the world system is set up in the procedures that it follows is practical space-time application. You have to do this to get to that, to reach that person in that department, and then go there and then go here. It's an actual practical walking process in space-time to eventually get something done. And this is an important point to take note of within one's own practical process of walking the mind-consciousness system. To be able to, in fact, change you as the mind, you've got to get to know yourself as the mind, to be equal to and one with your mind-consciousness system. What does this mean? Walking the system, walking your mind-consciousness system, step by step, taking it practically, breath by breath. As we have explained in interviews, you're going to start with your conscious mind, subconscious mind, unconscious mind. Initially only working with thoughts, then becoming aware of energies, then becoming aware of thoughts and energies, then becoming aware of resonances, physical changes, then personalities, then networks, then grid lines, then how everything was patterned and constructed. I mean, there is no shortcut and no short-circuiting of your process of getting to know yourself as your mind-consciousness system. The manifested consequence of looking for shortcuts and short-circuitings is where you'll then go into an alternate projected reality in your mind-consciousness system and create an idea, perception, or belief of yourself, wherein instead of walking your practical process of actual self-change, you will project an alternate dimension of self-change and then make yourself believe as though you've changed within a principle of knowledge and information, and then you have this whole experience of yourself. And then very soon that whole personality will actually fall or collapse or fail, because it cannot be sustained, as that idea, perception, or belief is constructed of energy, whereas with the reality of self is a completely different story. You did not walk the process, you did not walk the system, you did not take it step by step by step. So whenever you experience yourself failing or falling, or where you went on a high and then reaching a really low in relation to your process, take note of this particular point that is often visited with beings, where it becomes very easy to create ideas, beliefs, and perceptions of self and a changed self, when the actual practical process of change hasn't been actually, in fact, effectively walked. Like, for example, many beings will simply start just writing or with a few lines of self-forgiveness and then have a realization and then think, just because of having that realization, oh, I'm changed. There wasn't an actual practical walking of that change in the physical. Like, for example, a being walks through writing in self-forgiveness of anger towards friends, and a realization comes about within self of how that anger is not valid, or that it was just generated and that it was linked to a past memory, and one released that whole experience within self, within a realization, and they think, okay, I'm done, I'm not angry anymore. However, the actual practical physical test has not been walked in actually going back to those friends or similar people, putting yourselves in those situations and really being self-honest with you of any and all reactions coming up. I mean, if you then face them and there's still obviously reactions of anger and things like that emerging, you have not really in fact changed. It was just a realization. Writing and self-forgiveness only assists and support with realizations. Remember to take us through to practical, actual application in the physical, of being able to stand in front of that point and walk through the actual change in the physical. So change is a directive movement of doing, and be very attentive of this particular tendency within one's mind consciousness system to project change instead of walking actual practical change, which is the same that we tend to do within the world system as a whole, where we tend to project an outcome or a future, and then we chase after that outcome that we want or need or desire, instead of walking the practical process of what is required to be walked here in and as the physical. And then we can take it to our process from an existential perspective as well. Yes, we know where it is that we are wanting to go or to head, which is the equal money system implementation, where human beings start taking responsibility for themselves and their living. And many take that projection into an it is already done within themselves, and then root for this changed world, this changed humanity, but not in fact already realizing, seeing and understanding the actual practical process that's going to be required for us to get to that point. So remember your process, remember walking the system, both within and without. Get to know yourself, equal to and one with how you are existing right now in this moment, and then only be able to change the current equality in oneness to the equality in oneness as what is best for all. Because that is also a step that is often missed, is realizing that we first have to be equal to and one with what is here as it exists here. Because we're not at this moment. I mean, those that are walking with us in process are seeing how little we actually know about ourselves and how this world actually works. So educate yourself about the world system as a whole. I mean, there's the internet, you can do research, what is in your immediate environment. I mean, you can just, for example, see with what you're eating, your general basics. We don't know how food's being processed, what's in it, what is it that we're eating, how does it work, how does it get to here. Then within our mind consciousness system, how it is that we're thinking, what are these reactions, why am I how I am, why did this event happen or that event happen, why is my relationships this way and that way, why don't my relationships work, and there we have the Desteni-I-Process to assist and support self and educating self about self, within self and self's world. And so you have all the practical tools available here with self and within this world to be able to educate self and become equal to and one with what is here. And that is an important point to emphasize within this video interview. So utilize what is here and be watchful of that tendency to project an already changed self and world, and to fight for or defend and protect that idea, perception and belief, instead of walking the actual practical process, walking the system. Thank you.